Do we need to take? Are we good to continue? Okay. Um, so no citizen business and we can move on to commission business. Is that you, Todd? Are there any updates on the work plan for 25-26?
Yes, thank you, Chair Gorman and members of the committee. I did want to point out that there is a change that's not yet in our work plan. The MRC zoning code is what we're working on tonight, but starting next month, we're also going to add in the food truck regulations and the code update. So I'll be bringing a draft of that forward. There's pressure because we want to update our food cart regulations before the summer food cart season begins, and we're dangerously close to that. So we've taken a while with the MRC zoning code, and I was given direction today that next month we will be talking about that. So if we're not quite finished up with MRC, then you'll get two at once starting next month. But with that, everything else remains the same. We're just moving food truck regulations and code update up to
the top.
It'll be on your agenda next month.
Okay.
For discussion.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm here.
No problem. Hi, we just started, so we're just moving on to the public workshop.
Okay.
And so, Todd, this is a continuation from the last meeting. I did have a chance to review. I don't know if others had a chance to review.
Receive email comments from anyone?
I didn't have any comments to provide. I thought this version was a lot more straightforward. Like all the blanks were filled in. It was a lot cleaner than the version we had last month.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I don't know if others had a chance to look at it.
I did not hear from anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's good. What did we decide on that bed and breakfast on the MRC zone?
I can pull that up now and look. You remember which land use code that was? I can look for bed and breakfast too.
Are there any bed and breakfasts anymore?
No, that I know of.
They call them.
So bed and breakfast
Families.
category
Yeah.
R161 is flagged for discussion, and it's currently listed as a conditional use in this table.
I wanted to comment on something like that, if it is a conditional use permit, it would have to be conditional that they do have parking for those people that they would have occupancy for.
I think our discussion on the conditional use is, I think Commissioner Dodd brought up the fact that those are quite expensive and often require an applicant to hire a team to present the project. Whereas if it's just an outright permitted use, it's a pretty straightforward process to go through and doesn't require a public hearing and those things. The benefit of a conditional use is that it has a broader public noticing and it requires public hearings, and it also takes into account compatibility. So where you're doing a use in a neighborhood where you have some neighbors who may be concerned with the parking or other impacts that come from a use, a conditional use may be a better way to address those. But Commissioner Dodd is absolutely correct. The amount of burden on the applicant is significantly higher with a conditional use because there's a hearings examiner involved.
I agree with that. And since it's in the MRC zone, so it should be fine.
MRC is a more intense residential zone. It's basically combined the R3, which is the multifamily residential, and the commercial zoning standards. Yeah. So since you could do some commercial uses outright, maybe a conditional use isn't appropriate for a B&B in that zone. Do we want to just change that one to a permitted?
So
I would.
Sounds good to me.
now we should start that conditional use thing where there's different variants of conditional use.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that called, Todd?
Well, that would be in our procedures ordinance, and that's not yet in your work plan.
Okay.
We were going to take that one to council with this recommendation and point out that we don't have a lot of variation between the basic permitted use and a conditional use. So we could have a permitted subject to more public outreach, but yet not subject to hearing and things like that. So we want to get council to consider adding that to your work plan.
Is there any way to, in any of these categories to add like just like parking? There doesn't need to be an extra study. If they have on-site parking, they can prove it.
So if you'll note that one of the columns of this table does address how many parking spaces are required for those uses. And for a bed and breakfast, they're required to have 2 parking spaces plus 1 extra per each guest room.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So that's it. That's part of table 1778.
Okay, perfect.
Did we want to talk about the other ones that we had flagged for comment?
Please,
Or are we good with them the way they were?
can you refresh our memories?
I can.
Hey, Todd, before you jump on to the next, I have a question for you in regards to parking. So like in parking, like on 13th Street. I mean, there's so many vehicles parking out there that if you're coming from one of like the 12 or like the Mill Street or Johnson Street, I mean, it's just so blocked off. Do we have anything in the ordinance that just prevents that from happening? I mean, it's just accidents waiting to happen.
So off-street parking isn't covered by our zoning and land use specifically. Our no parking zones are regulated elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not we allow on-street parking for uses is actually in a different section of our zoning code. So if you're proposing a new use and you're adding parking, are you allowed to have some of that off-site? And the answer in a lot of zones in Chehalis is yes. And then you must provide a percentage of it on-site as well. There are a couple of districts that don't require, I think you require on-site parking for all your districts here. So
I think it's just more like, so I'm thinking about Penny Playground area. Like
Okay.
if they're parked up against closer to the fields, that's not so much an issue because I mean it's not blocking. But if you're on the side where all the homes are at, where the businesses are at too, I mean parking is or just the blockage with people coming out there is just so hard. You can't see either way, and then you're out there, and then it's like, okay, here comes a car.
I think that'd be public works.
Is that Public Works?
yeah, Public Works implements the no parking zones.
Traffic or anything else for the roads.
But that's a whole separate section of code where council designates no parking zones. Those are usually
Okay.
designated by council and those aren't part of the land use or land development codes. Those are usually more part of the city's overall parking regulations where they designate no parking zones. And council has to designate those because they're often ticketed by the city police. So in order to establish enforcement authority, council needs to formally designate them. But so that's a whole separate process. And
Okay.
that's
I
part
thought
of
I would
everything.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
if you're interested in improving the parking along that section, you could reach out either by submitting a comment to city council asking that they look at parking along that stretch, or show up at a council meeting and just offer some testimony and just point out what your concern is.
Okay,
And
perfect.
members of the public can always do that. If you as a commission want to make a recommendation to council, then you could ask the other commissioners if they're interested in making a recommendation, and we can always forward those off as a planning commission body. But it just depends if you're personally interested or if it's something that the entire commission's interested in taking up, because we can always send off a recommendation to council, say, hey, we've noted this in the community. This looks like it needs some consideration. Can you take action type of thing?
Oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe would anybody else be interested?
In making, instead of personally, instead of just one commissioner making a personal request, I mean, you all are able to send things to council too, as a committee. If you all as a committee believe in what Commissioner Mendez is saying, then you could send council a recommendation is the only thing I was pointing out. It's not something we're talking about here.
No, I think it's off topic. I mean, to me, it feels like I would need a lot more information, right? Like we're considering the MRC codes and we have all this in front of
Yeah.
us. So I don't I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, sorry, it's definitely off topic, but we were talking about the parking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe when it does come up down the road, or like maybe you guys can look at it before our next meeting and just take a look at it, because I really think, it's more of a safety. We have a lot of kids walking over there, and I work for the school district, and I just see so much safety concerns in that area. So just, if you guys can look at it, I'd appreciate it. And if you guys don't feel comfortable making a recommendation, I totally understand. I can send an email out to the
So
council.
if you'd like to summarize what your concern is, then I can put that on next month's commission business part of the
Okay.
agenda.
I'll do a
Then-
map. I'll send you a map.
Yep.
And then maybe they'll have a better understanding too.
And then, yeah, just kind of summarize what your position is, and then I'll just add that under
That
commission
works.
business, which is
Perfect.
where that would belong in our agenda. And I'll
Okay.
put it on for next month, and then the commission can decide if they want to take it up or not based on what you
Perfect.
send.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
that sounds good. Thanks, Todd.
Sorry for that segue.
Yeah, sorry.
So the next item that we had flagged for discussion is actually looking down, that was our 161 bed and breakfast. Huh, we just tackled that one. And then, the next one would be storage of low hazard, non-combustible material, which is S200.
I think we,
And that's
didn't we
allowed as
address
an
that one?
accessory use, and I had that one flagged for discussion as well.
I think we addressed that one.
Yeah, I think we talked about that one last time, and I think it made sense the way you had it
Yeah.
as accessory.
Okay, I'll make a note here so I don't bring it up again.
Yeah, after like a 15-minute discussion, we figured it out.
And then, so the next one I had was also discussed in January, and that was the non-flammable liquid storage tank. You were
Yeah, I
fine
think
with
that
it
was the
being
same.
accessory.
Yep.
Yep.
And that was the last one I had flagged for discussion in the.
See, look at that new leadership. We're zooming through already.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments?
No comment here.
questions?
It's
I
good.
didn't know how bad I was. Jeez.
So Todd, do you need anything formal from us, or is this just,
No, I mean, once you all are okay with it in your workshops, and I get that sense,
Yep.
then I'll schedule it for public hearing, and then we'll need a formal action on it.
Okay.
We'll need a vote on it.
After the
and
hearing.
Public hearing and all that good stuff, but at this point, if you're telling me you're fine, then my next step is to schedule the table and hopefully the code, which is our next item on our agenda for those two
Yep.
go together.
okay,
So,
sounds good.
That's it, huh?
so then the next item is the code on the agenda. I've had some comments in there, actually probably from last year. The outstanding comment that I had in there from December was, and let me see, I don't have page numbers in here, was 1755.30, and it was 2B. And the note was, this needs to be clarified as the 30-foot separation between lots to require the step back, or is it meant to be the facade? And the way it's written is the facade. But you remember in that one, you have the step back. So the upper story step back of 10 additional feet above 35. But right now the building height is 50 feet for the facade of any building within 30 feet of an abutting R zone lot. And then that also includes an upper story step back of 10 feet. So you have basically a 40-foot setback for everything over 35 feet. So you'll have a building that's stepped by a 10-foot break in plane. So that's the way it's written now. If you wanted to change that so it applied differently, this is the section regulating building height. then you could decrease or increase the building height, and then you could, so what this sets is a maximum building height of 35 feet for residential only buildings and 50 feet for mixed use buildings or buildings fronting, the corridor, the designated market frontages along market.
Does this, I mean, is this pretty similar to what other municipalities do for MRC? I mean, I don't have any numbers better in my mind, so I
The
mean,
whole step
I don't even
back thing
understand.
is, it's a design technique that a lot of architects don't like because it adds cost to buildings. I mean, the cheapest structure to build is generally a rectangle,
straight up, yeah.
straight up and straight down without any variations to it. Communities tend to like this because it enhances the look and feel of a community because it adds a design element to it. You get step buildings and allows somebody to go over. So what you're doing is you're letting somebody go taller than 50 feet. So that's where the payoff is, right? I mean, does somebody want to pay a little bit extra in the design and construction of their building to go taller than 50 feet or not? You're allowing the mixed buildings already sort of a height bonus because they're allowed to be taller than the 35 feet for residential only structures. So you're encouraging a mixed use building by allowing them to be taller. And you're allowing them to be even taller still if they do a step back. So I'm sorry, the step back is required over 35 too. So you're letting them in a mixed use building, you're allowing them to achieve a height of 50 feet, but you're also requiring that added design and construction cost of the step back to go from 35 to 50 feet. So that's,
So a step back would allow somebody to go 3 stories as opposed to 2 stories.
No, over,
it's for, or
yeah, 4
you
stories.
can
Adds
get
another
4 stories and
units.
Yeah.
you can get 4 stories and 50 feet.
Yeah, 4 stories, yeah.
I mean, I don't know any other way to do it, so.
Yep.
But I mean, the other way to do that is just to take the step back out and say that they're allowed to do 50 feet in height without a step back requirement. Makes building construction cheaper. It lowers the design and appearance of the buildings. I mean, they're not quite as creative as they used
But
to
if
be
it's
anymore.
on, if it's on Market Street here, then we want it to look nice.
It would be for mixed use buildings, any place or buildings fronting the Market Street frontage.
Oh.
So any building fronting the Market Street, even if it's residential only, can be that height. But also any building that's mixed use. So if you wanted to separate those two and say any building that's mixed use has to be 35 feet too. But the ones along Market can be up to 50 feet. I mean, you can separate that any way you want.
Gotcha.
I mean, right now the standard says for mixed use buildings, any mixed use building or buildings fronting the Market Street corridor, they're allowed to go up to 50 feet. So I guess the question is does that feel right? Do you want to include that extra design element? Do other jurisdictions require that? Yes, although is 10 feet the right amount? Probably that's a big step back in a building. So you could set that back by 5 feet and still have some visual relief of that iconic structure at 50 feet, but 50 feet's really not too tall anyway. It's a 4-story commercial building, basically.
Yeah.
Anybody have a strong opinion? No.
No, not really.
Yeah.
As it is.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Until someone throws a fit about it.
Yeah. Well, the public could comment on it when we have the public hearing. True.
Yeah, well, and if anybody shows up and says, you know, that's super expensive and here's some cost examples and you all don't like them, you can change it then. too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or council can change it when it gets to them too.
Yep.
So, and the other thing is when we go out for public hearing, there's the public noticing. So we might get written comments in from people that don't show up and testify too.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it.
And that was the only comment that I had outstanding in this document.
Okay, can we move on to the map?
Mapping, yes, we can. You see. Did you want me to try and pull this up?
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think the
Not
the
for
packet
maybe
has.
Gladys.
Thanks for the maps, by the way.
Well, I can if you'd like, but if we don't need it, then it's gonna
Yeah.
add time. So if you guys are okay, then I'll let you comment on what you see and I can implement those changes and recommendations on the map.
I don't see anything that.
It's important to note that whatever changes we make in the parcel designations might wait until the end of the year because we're only allowed to change our comprehensive plans once each year. So while the changes to the zoning code and use tables would go through and get approved by council, it's likely that the mapping changes would get deferred until we do another annual update. So that way we don't have to, because if we have applicants that are requesting that, they would be prohibited if we did it once this year already. They couldn't. So we usually do it
Yeah.
a yearly cycle.
I mean, I'll just express my opinion. I mean, I don't have any specific comments. This also feels like something that the public may want to comment on, and without any feedback from them, I mean, I don't have any reason to change what you've presented in the map.
Very good.
Does anybody else have thoughts?
Ian, what do you
Similar.
think? You work
I
in
agree with you.
public or building.
Here, you want to point it at you.
If it works. I know we've had applicants have concerns about one side of the road not matching the other. With MRC on one side and general commercial. And some of those have homes still in the general commercial area.
That was something the
Oh, yeah,
former
yeah.
chair brought up.
Right on market, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so why not make those commercials MRC? What's the problem with that?
I wasn't here when the original zoning line was
Yeah.
drawn. I mean, certainly zoning consistency across both sides of the street. We might look at so we have the map that I created without. It looks like if you did that, you might be down zoning some properties. So you have some that are zone CG.
Yeah.
Is it to the advantage of the houses that are in the CG to go MRC?
Not really. The single family residences.
Wasn't there some issue with somebody that was trying to sell and there was the bank and because of the way that it was designed?
That's correct.
Well, that's
Because-
not the only issue.
Because it was a mixed use building, and it was permitted as that, the bank was having a hard time understanding because it wasn't zoned appropriately for both of those uses anymore. It wasn't zoned for the residential use. It was only zoned for the commercial uses. So they wanted to understand the city's allowance for replacement of structures and things like that should some catastrophe.
And she's in the
happen.
CG zone. That's
That
one of
was
those
in the
houses.
CG zone.
Okay.
Which
So if we
the
changed it to MRC, would it help that issue?
It would, because then you'd be allowed to do your mixed use building. Those would effectively become apartments above commercial, and then you'd be allowed use in the mixed use building.
So if they have a fire, a flood, anything above 50%, they can't rebuild. That's how that goes right now. We ran into that. I have a project on the airport road where it burnt down. And it was a 5,000 square foot house. It has since been rezoned to commercial, which there's no commercial that should go over there. It's in the flood zone and it's such a small lot, but whatever. And they wouldn't let them rebuild the house because it's now commercial.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
and I'm not sure, I think the hoops to jump through to try and get that to be allowed again were pretty significant.
Yeah, it would be comp plan amendment rezone. And
Yeah.
so that's the yearly process. So there was a process once a year.
Yeah.
And then the likelihood of those going through depends on the input that's received through the public process and the whim of council. There's nothing that says that
Yeah.
anything has to be rezoned, but it comes before you all for hearing, and then it goes to council for hearing. It's comp plan amendment rezone. Same thing we just went through last couple years.
Yep. So if their house burns down, they can't rebuild right now for at least another year or year and a half.
But you could include recommendations, but that's probably why those pieces that I can imagine that they were looking to upzone property and not downzone property. And usually, you know, the mixed use zones may not bring as high a market value for a community as a general commercial zone. So that's what we would be doing, but that's not always the case. I mean, where you have existing properties that are so far from being converted to commercial, those are likely to never convert to commercial, but they might convert to a mixed use. So it might make it easier for some of those properties to transition into something higher and better than what they are today. But generally, I can say I wasn't here when that line was drawn, but that would be my suspicion, is that they didn't want to downzone commercial property to make it a mixed use.
Annie, can we ask Annie a question?
Sure.
So in the Market Street area, are you seeing more and more requests for it to be used as commercial?
We had a couple homes that were for sale that were in the commercial zone, and people wanted to keep using them as a home, but that wasn't allowed. So that was basically what we were running into. And then they would contact Todd about having it rezoned.
Okay.
And the existing uses, as long as they're not destroyed or abandoned, are allowed to continue
Yeah.
as grandfathered. So if somebody is selling a house to somebody else and they've lived in it continuously, they haven't abandoned the use, then they can sell it as a residence, but it becomes hard to insure for that reason, because
Yep.
you have an inability to replace it if it's damaged by more than 50%.
Yep.
Or 49%, whatever that is.
There's that famous house that's in New York City where they built skyscrapers all around it. It's just that one small little house that they didn't sell. And it's all, you know, people are still living in that little house.
That's not a zoning anomaly. That's something else. They didn't keep that parcel zoned that way.
No, they just didn't move.
It was just the person
Yeah,
that
no,
didn't want to sell.
it's grandfathered, yeah.
Grandfathered in.
So what can be, I mean, I think we're all on the same page that I don't know. I mean, at least I am, that those should probably be MRC, but
So if you want, like I said, we're workshopping. If you're reasonably comfortable with leaving them as commercial, then I'll send it out for public notice and we'll see what public comments we get, and that might influence your decision. If you really believe they should be MRC, then that's what you should tell me, and then that's the map I'll send out, and then we'll see if anybody's opposed to getting downzoned to MRC from. So whichever way you want to present it before your public hearing.
MRC be a down zone to a business that's already there.
I think it's a dollar amount sign or dollar amount.
I mean, usually commercial property is valued higher than mixed use or residential property. It's just a rule of thumb. It doesn't always apply that way though, because you have situations in every community where a piece of property will never convert to a commercial use because it's got a substantial residence on it.
It seems like that
Yeah,
side of
I
the
mean,
street
yeah, we
has a
can-
lot of old houses, or they're
there's already a
maintenance of
business
dentist
there,
houses,
then I would
or
say
dentist offices,
leave it
or
in
massage therapy, or
Yep, but if
or
they're
what have you,
houses,
type of
situations
situations.
to MRC.
I could see them in the future tearing them down and building up, you know, mixed use, especially in those houses. down
Well, even
there.
if now they're a mixed use, if you have somebody who's doing a live work thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you have somebody that has their office in the front and their home upstairs or something like that,
Yeah.
that's a mixed use building.
Pharmacy is another one.
Right.
Can we cherry pick the ones that have houses on them,
The
put
little-
MRC, and the ones that have commercial
Yes.
buildings already on them,
Absolutely.
leave them commercial?
Yep, that's good direction. I can do that based
that.
on
Great
assessment
idea.
data.
Yeah, because Safeway is one of the commercial ones, and then, you know, one of the other ones is the new Chehalis pharmacy. I mean, I'm assuming they wouldn't,
They want to stay commercial.
they would want to stay commercial.
Perfect. Yeah, I can follow that direction if that's what you want me
Okay.
to implement.
Silver agency.
I have to live there.
I second it.
Sounds good. to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the map I'll send out for public, and if you guys change your mind at the public hearing, that's where you're making your
Well,
recommendation.
and it'll just be, I mean, if we don't get any comments, it'll be a recommendation to council and they can change it back if they want, right?
Right.
Like
They
if they're
can,
not happy
and-
with it.
And we'll make that recommendation, but along with that, will be the caveat that we're not looking to make these zoning changes until we do,
Public hearing.
well, the public hearing will come here and then it'll be at council. But even if council were to adopt those, the mapping changes wouldn't happen now because
Right,
they
okay,
require. a
that's what you said
compliant
earlier, okay.
Process, and we're limited to doing that once a year. So those become part of our next annual comp plan update.
Okay, so sorry, you guys, you guys kind of broke out there. So I just want to make sure I understood this correct. So the existing commercial will stay as commercial, and then we're keeping what is currently as MRC?
So on the other side of Market from
Uh-huh.
what we're proposing to be MRC. So the MRC is a solid band on the south side of Market.
Mm-hmm.
On the west side of Market, on the east side of Market, all that area is zoned general commercial now. But what the Planning Commission is asking me to do is to go through that east side of Market, the part that's zoned general commercial, leave the ones general commercial that have a commercial tax assessed business on it,
Mhm.
and then the ones that are residential in nature to change those to the new MRC zone.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Did I summarize that correctly?
Did, yes.
All right.
They're beautiful.
And you're comfortable with the other side of Market being the way it
Saying
is,
MRC.
MRC?
Yeah.
And that's where
Well,
we'll get
actually, I
public
mean, so
hearings.
how did that side come about, right? Because that is interesting. Like the Ace, but the Ace complex is in there somewhere.
Ace is right there.
The Ace Hardware.
Are there other, the Ace Hardware, the, what is now CVS?
Would you like me to also repeat
I
that
mean,
same
that-
behavior for that side?
Seems like
Do they
it.
need to?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it? I don't think we need to. I mean,
Well, with the MRC zoning code, you're basically, so now you've got the use table, but we're basically using the same uses and we've not made them be a mixed use. So those standalone commercial buildings could still continue to exist.
Mm-mm.
I don't think that was for us.
No, sorry.
that's a.
That one sounded more like a mama and less
Yeah.
like a planning commission member, I think. So, but if you'd like, I can go through and pick those out, but those uses should be allowed. The inverse of allowing
Yeah,
the commercial uses in the MRC is true, because other than the alterations that we've just made to a few of the uses in the table, I've allowed all the GC uses in the MRC
Okay.
zone. So should be okay, but
yeah, that sounds good.
I'll try to verify that too, to make sure those uses are still permitted in the MRC zone.
Okay.
Okay, so that was our public workshop for tonight.
Okay, well, we're way ahead of schedule, but there's nothing else on the agenda, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
Well, yeah, there's nothing else, no public hearing.
No public hearing, no presentation. Last thing is to adjourn.
There you go.
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned, or meeting adjourned.
Get that gavel.
All right. All right.